Welcome to Guitar Gavel, a place for people who love guitars. These are conversations with musicians, guitar enthusiasts, techs, and collectors about their guitar journey and their love of the instrument. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button, share with your friends, and be sure to sign up for our twice weekly newsletter at guitargavel.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Guitar Gavel podcast. I'm your host, David Still. Got a super special show coming up for you with Izzy Miller, a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and guitar dealer. In fact, he's got a brand new album coming out later this week. Izzy Miller sings Extra Bacon and other chart-topping hits, due out on February 17th. He hails from my mama's home state of Alabama in the great entrance to the Appalachian Mountains in Huntsville. Izzy and I met about a year ago at a guitar show here in North Carolina, and I am grateful and thankful to have him on the show. Izzy, it's great that you're here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it.
We were talking offline. It's like, man, it's great to have another guest from the South. I've got him from all over the place, but only one other. Did I have one from North Carolina? Now I've got, I can't say a fellow Alabamian since I'm officially from Georgia, but I got a lot of blood down in that state. So
we'll take you in.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you.
When they run you out of North Carolina, we'll take you in.
All right, good to know. I got a home, sweet home somewhere else. So, man,
spare bedroom's ready.
That could happen. Be careful.
Just need a place to crash for what, a day or two, 6 months tops.
Yeah. Okay. Couple nights till things smooth over, and I'll be, I can come back. So I always lead in, man. We'll talk about your music, your songwriting, your playing, your guitar wheeling and dealing, some of your favorite guitars. But I typically start, because this is where it all begins. When did you first start playing the guitar?
I was pretty late to the party, honestly. I grew up, my entire family, especially my dad's side, played. And I didn't get into it seriously until I was about 13 or so. There were always guitars around, but 13 or so is when I started taking it a little bit more seriously. As seriously as I could possibly take it, I guess.
Man, 13's not too late. I mean, when did you start? Were you plucking around years prior to that?
Yeah, I mean, you'd hit the strings a time or two, but like I said, 13 is kind of when I went, this is pretty cool. There might be something here. And by the time I was 15, I was in bands and stuff, and things started happening. So it was all pretty quick. As soon as I knew 3 chords, I was good to go.
You're in business, man. What was your first guitar? Was it one that your dad had laying around, or did you save your money, or your parents buy you one for a present, or how'd that go?
There was always cool stuff around. Dad collected a bit. But my first guitar is actually somewhere behind me here. It is a 77 Strat, and my mother bought it for me. It was back when they were still affordable. Nobody wanted 70 Strats. And they were affordable for a long time. It was $1,000 guitar at the time, and that one rode a tornado with me. So we're close.
Wow. Yeah, you are close. I don't know if we might save that story for later, or we may not go there. I know that's a heavy one. So was your dad was he your main inspiration early on to start playing, or was it a band? How did that work out?
My early influence, I grew up around a lot of country music. And I always wanted to be a country singer. So all my family played. My uncles, my Uncle Bobby was probably one of the best singers I've ever heard. My grandfather played kind of the Travis picking thumb pick style and the Chet stuff. Trying to think. I've repressed a lot of memories since then. That I also had a drinking problem for a while, so I drank some of them away too. But I grew up around those guys, and it just all the country music stuff was the epitome of cool to me. Buck Owens and Don Rich in the rhinestone suits. They just had so much fun. We were actually playing somewhere a few years ago, and we walked in, and there's no stage, just a corner to set up in, and Hee Haw is playing on the TV behind the bar. And I just went, "We're at home, boys." It's going to be a good night.
Man, growing up with all the Pickers in the family, did Was it almost through osmosis that you learned to play or developed your style by watching your uncle or your grandfather and your dad, or did they actually sit down and give you a few tricks to learn and a few lessons?
Me and Dad would get together, just kind of. There was a back bedroom in the house. It was just full of music gear and stuff. And we get together and play a little bit. And I pick up stuff there, but I learned a lot just watching and being around it. My Uncle Flop, was just an incredible performer, and he never sang the same song twice. He'd whip out Silent Night in the middle of July. It just do whatever he wanted to do, and that's kind of where some of the style came from, some of the flair, as they say. But I get sidetracked. But just listening to all that stuff and the country music, man, to this day, it just blows my mind how clever some of that stuff is. It doesn't get enough credit for being as clever as it is.
Are you, in terms of today's country music, are you much of a listener of popular radio
No,
play country?
no.
Nor am I. I didn't have to even finish that sentence. That's why we're brothers from another mother. Yeah.
I'm not hip. I don't stay hip to the top 40 is all I'll say. I think it's my Spotify was down the other day and I was driving. I had about an hour trip and I had to listen to the radio like a pilgrim and it was terrible. And it's just radio's such trash nowadays. There's no individuality in radio anymore. It's all, everything's corporate owned. There's playlists. There's no radio's dead. It still exists, but it's not. Radio's dead. Tom Petty nailed it. What's the record? The Last DJ nailed it. It's over, and unfortunately, it's as long as the corporate, entities remain involved, and the FCC keeps their grasp on it, that radio's not coming back.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's a reason for it to come back. There's too many other channels.
I would like to see it come back. I think radio was an incredible medium, of course, before my time, but I think I wish radio would come back. I truly think there's a spot for it. And I'd like to see it. I think it's sad what it's become. I really do. There's no breaking of the bands anymore. There's no building up late. Just the whole music industry and radio, television, it's all gone to hell. And it's sad to me.
And we won't deviate here for too long. When I listen to the radio, typically it's an independently owned station. So I listen to WNCW in Western North Carolina, which is broadcast out of a community college. When I was in high school, I first started listening to WNCW. They're going across the mountain bluegrass show that they had on Saturdays, but it's an independent station. And then, like an example, maybe a bigger market would be like Lightning 100 in Nashville. I think that's a pretty good example. We listen to that. So I don't listen to much radio at all myself. But to your point, the corporate stuff is a music mill with not a lot of heart and soul. And someone would argue that it's been that way for decades and decades, but that is certainly, it's different now when you can go to so many different other places to listen to music and listen to original, meaningful, heartfelt music with heart and soul. And you don't get that on the radio much.
Well, there's no freedom in it. Back in the really 2000, really September 11th, when that pivoted to where it's at now. Before that, DJs had a lot of freedom in what they were allowed to do. And you get the Clear Channel memo that goes out after September 11th of a literal list of songs that they went, do not play these.
And that's when
where's the freedom in that? There is none. And that's any DJ on any corporate station that I don't consider them a DJ. And I think that's sad. I really do. It's just there's a way of life that worked for a long time and it eroded away, and it is what it is. But it's not. I don't see it coming back. There's a few independent stations that I enjoy listening to. There's there's a country station out of, I believe, Hanceville. It's down near Coleman. Classic country, but even they've started playing more modern stuff recently, and I just turn it off when they start doing that. But there's very little, there's just no freedom. There's none.
Well, let's before you and I go down all the way down that rabbit hole, we'll deviate back to you. This conversation's about Izzy Miller, man, and Izzy's music and what you're up to. I have a feeling we'll deviate one or two more times, man, before we're done. But kind of going back to your early teenage years in your guitar journey. You said you're basically starting to play out with buddies or playing bands by the time you're 15 or so. Were you playing country music then? And kind of what did that look like for you going into high school?
I was not popular in high school. Let's start there. No, I played rock music for many years. Country wasn't viable to make any kind of money or really get any gigs. And, more recently, you've got some artists that have kind of come to the forefront and kind of brought country music, but I don't get into all the new outlaw country. I think it's Waylon. It's outlaw country for people who call the cops on George Jones to me. And you're listening to Waylon with extra steps, but it's starting to get back to a point of real emotion in country music. But for a long time, it wasn't like that. And honestly, much like radio did, it kind of changed in 2001 to just a more politicized and point of view in country music. But I started out playing rock, and I continued to play rock. And more recently, on some of my more recent records, we've kind of went down the country rabbit hole, which is what I've always wanted to do. And the new record is just dead on country music. It's a really good time. When you said the title earlier, I got some flack on the title. They went, it's too long, it's too much. I went, it's hilarious. And you said, I kind of laughed. I love it. But for many years I was a rock musician, but that wasn't my true calling. I just wanted to be a country singer. That's what I always wanted to do. And, I never expected it to go anywhere. I don't think anyone really expects to go anywhere. You have dreams of hitting the big time and everything. And I was very fortunate. I had 2 charting singles. They charted on the Billboard Rock downloads chart, the trailer park of the Billboard charts, but it counts. And it's been an incredible time. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, but it's been an incredible time overall.
Man, can we, if you don't mind, we'll talk about kind of your songwriting style or how you get into the flow of songwriting, and do you write? I know you play a little. We were talking. You're sitting in front of a piano right now. Do you write some on the piano? Are you writing just lyrics on paper? Are you playing your favorite acoustic? If you don't mind, and maybe there's that might sound too methodical, so it might be completely different. But give us a little idea of how that works for you.
It's funny. One of my closest friends, Joey Huffman, and I were talking about this on the phone the other night. But he's producing an artist, and they were asking him, he's not producing the artist. He met a kid, and the kid was asking him about songwriting, and he stayed up until like 1 a.m. talking to him about it. But the kid was at, do you write lyrics first? Do you write music first? Do you do this? And there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. There was a recent interview with Springsteen where he's talking about, they ask him, are you constantly writing? And he says that he'll go years without writing something. And I'm the same way. You'll get a line in your mind, or you'll hit a chord, you'll go, there's something there. Anything can jog a song, at least for me. I don't, going back to the country music thing, you hear country singers and songwriters going, I've got a writing session at lunchtime on Tuesday. And how the hell does that work? Where's the inspiration? Right. That's not real.
I think there's your answer.
But, they do it, but I can't write like that. I can't sit down and go, I'm going to write a song today. It doesn't work for me.
So, for example, for the album that's coming out this week, is that like did you have to wait for a long time, gather your songs over time, or did you kind of give yourself a timeline in that process? Like, I'm ready. this is my year, this is my 18 months. Again, maybe way too methodical, but curious as to how you, I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to set a finish line at some point.
I deal with bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed last year, and so I go from manic to depressive, and there's a thing called rapid cycling where you go between most people's. You can have a manic phase that lasts for months, or you'd have a depressive episode that lasts for months or weeks or days. I can go through moods 2 or 3 times in a day. Like right now, I feel great. In 30 minutes, I could be bottomed out. It's really something. But it's a great time. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
But so there's really no rhyme or reason to how I do things, and I think that especially having a name for something that you've been dealing with for a long time. It starts making more sense to how you've done things in the past, because everything's been based on your moods or your state of mind. But you don't really realize that until you. I'm sorry, I've got my door open for the light. I saw a squirrel run across the porch here. But when we were working on the new record, I was going through a period of really just kind of being lost, and I've been through some hellacious relationships over the years, and a woman that I'd been seeing a few years ago came back into my life and just totally trashed everything again. And so I was kind of bottomed out, and I was listening to a lot of Louvin brothers. Just Satan is Real constantly. As a matter of fact, the Charlie Louvin book's on the shelf. I didn't see it from here, but just constantly. And there's not enough good murdering songs anymore. There's not enough good songs about living like a heathen. So I was over at a friend's house. There's no plans to do a record. There's no plans to do anything really. So I'm sitting at a friend's house. We're picking a few songs. And there's 4 of us around the table. It's me, my buddy Ben Kendall, who plays guitar with me, his now wife Katie, and our friend James Fall. And James has got a mandolin out. Me and Ben are playing guitars in case, just kind of hanging out. And all of a sudden, man, we write 3 songs sitting there at the table. And I think we got something here. And over the next few weeks, they started pouring out, and we finished. Every song on the record is new. Nothing was written. A lot of times you'll have a song that was written a year before or whatever. Everything on the record's new. We wrote it specifically for the record. And after we finished 10 of them, I said, let's go into the studio and start working on this. And we did. And it came out great. But there was really no rhyme or reason to it at all. So now we've got a record.
I'm making a note here in my notes. Don't ask Izzy about rhyme or reason. Don't ask Izzy rhyme or reason.
Don't question anything he does. It's mental illness.
When y'all finish recording, just give everybody a little insight as to what that process looks like after your studio work is done, and the length of time to bring that to everybody.
Going back, Tom Petty said it, the wise prophet Tom Petty said it best. The waiting is the hardest part. Difficult. You've got something that hopefully you're proud of. Hopefully it's come out as you've intended. And I also want to give a shout out real quick to our engineer. When we started working on the record, we toured studios, and we toured one studio, and we went, this is where we need to be. And that was Silver Fox Sound here in Alabama. And our engineer, Robert Fox, we had some personnel changes going into we had the first session, and then we had a bunch of personnel changes. So, and my personal life took a hit. I was dating a woman, and it just fell apart. And so a lot of stuff was going on during the sessions. But I really want to give Robert Fox a shout out, because Robert he started as the engineer, and he ended up being a producer. And just incredible to work with. And I don't think we wouldn't have finished the record without Robert. There's no way. There's no way the finish line would have gotten crossed. But going back to the question, there's a lot of promotional stuff that goes into it behind the scenes. Like, right, we announced the release date back in January, and since then, it's just we're trying to get press, we're trying to do interviews, we're sending it to everyone. Radio singles go out. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. There's a lot more work promoting a record than making it to me. I really enjoy making it. I hate promoting a record. I'm kind of private, and that's not my thing. I'd rather be in the studio working, but it's all part of the process.
It is. And you talk about being private. One thing that impresses me so much, and didn't strike me until later in life, that for a songwriter or a singer and songwriter to make themselves really vulnerable and share it with the world, like just how much bravery that takes, especially for someone that is private, even if you're not. I mean, to write about your raw emotion and share it with the whole world is really daunting. Does that ever cross your mind, or you just let it go and you don't think about it, when you're doing it or after the fact?
There's a record I cut in late 2018 called Precipice, and I don't listen to Precipice. It bothers me to listen to Precipice, not because it's a bad record. It's so personal. And it's an EP. There's only 4 songs on it, but yeah, it's something that you definitely think about. It comes up like on the new record, Extra Bacon and other chart topping hits. Don't take my word for it. Don't look it up. But I lived every word of that record, and every word of it. I co-wrote all of the songs, or wrote all the songs except for one, which Shane Davis wrote, called "Roll to the Bottom," and but I've lived that one too. So I try to strive for honesty when we're working on a record, man. If you're not real, people can see right through that bullshit every time. So you're best off to be honest and just tell the truth, and that's what I try to do. But it definitely crosses my mind. It's a very vulnerable place to be. There's songs that I don't listen to or I won't revisit for that reason. I've lived them. I don't need to revisit that. But it's weird because people will bring those songs up to you and tell you how they affected them, and it's very relatable. It's a relatable thing when you're being honest, and that goes a long way. That's why I'm very private about my personal life in a general sense, but the last few years I've been more open, especially dealing with mental struggles and everything. And I've got a large platform, and I don't know who decided to give that to me, and I'd imagine they've regretted it, but there's a lot of this stuff stigmatized, and a lot of people, if one person sees, they go, well, Izzy Miller's dealing with mental health issues, and they go, maybe I could get help too. I started going to therapy because I was watching The Sopranos. True story
about that.
And my logic was, well, if Tony Soprano can go see a shrink, I probably can too. So I think about that a lot. I go, if people see me doing this, maybe they'll get help too. And that goes a long way. And I've tried to be more open over the past few years about things like that.
That's admirable. That really is. And you do have a big platform, and you can change, potentially impact a lot of people.
Yeah, I try. We joke around a lot, but I try to get serious, and tell people the truth. And maybe that's my ego going, yeah, I've got a big platform, people listen to me, but people do message and they go, I've been sober for 8 months because I saw that you got sober, and stuff like that. And that's a big deal, man. You get those messages, and that makes you really think about what you're doing.
Well, to not to totally deviate, but talking about writing authentic lyrics and being true to your heart. I saw Alan Jackson in concert 8 or 9 years ago. The Merle Fest. We'll go back. We'll dig on Nashville, and we'll dig on not being authentic, and we'll lighten it up for a minute. He somewhere towards the end of his set, and I don't remember what song it was. He's like, man, all these new guys singing about a dirt road, growing up on the dirt road. And he said, And he said, man, he said, I grew up on a dirt road, and Lord have mercy, we were so happy when it got paved.
Yeah, well, it's man, country music's went to hell. I don't understand how it got so off track. It's just terrible. It's awful. Country radio is atrocious. They should be ashamed of what's happened to the genre. And even if it's really went in a pop direction. And the logic is genres grow, they evolve, and that's fair. They do. That's true. But when you're looking, and Garth Brooks is a great example of this. Country music didn't become very commercially viable until really the 80s. Your first platinum country record was the Outlaws compilation with Waylon, Tom Paul, Jesse Coulter, and Willie Nelson. And that was 74, 75, roundabout then, mid 70s. So when you get into the 80s, Alabama comes along and it turns into a serious crossover. You had artists having crossover hits in the 70s, but when the 80s hit, you have serious pop crossover success. Country music becomes viable from a commercial and financial standpoint. The labels start putting more money behind it. And then Garth comes along in 88, 89, and it turns into a stadium act. I mean, it's big time. This is now pop sensation Garth Brooks. And but in each of those cases, they all took something from your previous generations. And Alan Jackson's a good example of that. They all really treated the older guys with respect. They really looked up to them. And then when you get into the 90s, the business changes, and all those old guys hated Garth because it really changed country music. And Garth gets a lot of hate to this day about that. And I don't understand it because I like Garth. Garth's a great dude. If you've ever met Garth, he's a genuine person. He's just a great guy. And but he really looked up to his influences, and he took that and built upon it. So you have your influences there in that music. The first Garth record is an incredible album. But nowadays you don't have any of that. It's pop bullshit, and they don't care. There's no country music in the genre anymore. They've taken that whole thing out, and that really bothers me. It's just like radio eroding, and the life of the DJ that's out there, and that's why it's so sad to me. There is no country music in country music anymore. Yeah. And as over the years when it evolved, it always remained there. And Alan Jackson's a great example. Alan really looked out for those older guys in the 90s, and not many people were doing that.
I was reading an article about Jeff Cook, guitarist for Alabama. So I was raised on Alabama when I was a kid. Alabama, Ray Stevens, and the Oak Ridge Boys, man. That was regular rotation. My first song I remember singing was when I was 3. Some guys will go, man, you're so young. And someone else can go, man, he's so old. I was 3. We lived in Columbus, Georgia. I remember singing along to the song Elvira.
God, it's
one of my favorites. But going back, Jeff said, and I don't know when it was a quote from Jeff, since he's passed, and I don't know what year this was from, but it was relevant at the time. But to your point, it's not so relevant now. But he was saying country music can be, oh gosh, now I'm going to botch the quote. I'm totally blanking. He basically was saying, and he was really relating, I think, to when Alabama blew up, that it was, about 20 years ahead of what's next. So if you take Alabama 1982 and fast forward to 2002, and then 2002 to 2022, but it eroded in that process. And I think that quote was an older quote from Jeff. I could be wrong. It could have been from last year, but it has deviated so much from its roots, as you were saying.
Well, nowadays it's just all it's every country song is so cliche, and there's real country artists out there doing it, and it's admirable. Can't talk. But as far as your mainstream country music goes, it's atrocious. You just pick one of five, or you pick two or three of five subjects that you toss them in a song, and you've got a country hit. And I don't want to alienate the country music audience. I don't want to do that. But honestly, it's a lot of it's the audience. If you can't blame Luke Bryan for singing the records worth of songs about trucks and drinking beer by the lake, because he's making millions of dollars doing it. You can't blame him. I mean, if they went sing these songs and we'll pay you $1 million, I'd do it too. I'll sell out. I don't care. But that being said, the audience just eats it up, and I think that's a big problem with it. I think country music's always been. It's always been. We were talking about this when we made the record and we named the record and did the cover and everything. Country music's always been campy. It has been. Look at Buck and look at Don. They're the epitome of cool, but they're hillbillies in rhinestone suits. It's always been campy, but it's been self-aware of that. Like they knew that. But they didn't dumb it down for the audience. Listen to Together Again. Listen to Buck and Don's harmonies on that. It's a beautiful song. There's nothing to it. It's the simplest thing in the world, but it's honest. And it's just, I think mainstream country music started dumbing down the audience after, honestly, September 11th is really, again, when everything changed. That's when that happened. Radio changed, country music changed, going through the damn airport changed dramatically, of course. That's the point where I think it tipped, and I don't think we can go back. I wish we could go back to before that occurred, because it was a better world, and that just changed so much, and in every facet of life.
We're kind of dancing around a little bit.
Guitar. We're supposed to be talking about guitars.
If you want, man, I can come in and edit it out, but we'll probably just let it go. To everyone watching, we after the show was over, we talked about, hey, do you want to edit that out? And we just decided no. So here we are.
No, we're going with it. This is a conversation. This is the podcast. It's a conversation. We're going for it.
That's right.
Whatever comes up, man. Let's ride the train.
Dude, so we're going back to guitars, but we're gonna link in everything we can about your new album in the show notes of everything, so everyone knows where to go, knows where to find you. And some of that still top secret, so it's kind of like wait and see. Watch Izzy Miller official Facebook page for where everything's going to go down coming up here in a few days. But going back to the album and to the guitars, and I know you've got a great collection and you've got some favorites and some that sing to you and help you sing to your audience. When the guitar bug, if you will, right? It's in your blood. When did your first proper guitar, 77 Strat, like you said, not everybody was racing to buy one at the time, but it's still a slick guitar.
They were still affordable vintage, Fenders at that point. And the guitar market's gotten insane over the last few years. COVID and everything really changed. Talking about September 11th, COVID changed everything too. And it just, man, nothing's affordable anymore. Dozen eggs at the grocery store down the road from my house at the Publix is $7. And the guitar market did the same thing. We saw prices double or triple in some cases. And that's quickly coming to an end. And I think most dealers don't like to be honest about how their business is going. I don't feel that way. I will tell you exactly how I feel about everything. I don't care. It's people like to keep up the charade. Most guitar dealers ended last year, 2022, down about 30 to 40% from 2001 numbers. There's exceptions to that rule. That didn't happen to everyone, but your majority of dealers ended last year down significantly. Now, what happened, and this hasn't come to roost yet, it will, is you've got a lot of people buried in guitars that they paid what we now refer to as COVID prices for, and you can't sell those guitars. I had a friend sell a mahogany topped Banner logo J45 for years. Man, you couldn't give them mahogany top. People go, "Oh, it's a Banner. Oh, it's mahogany top." I don't. Yeah. That guitar brought $15,000. That is insane. That was clean. It was a stellar example. But what's a spruce top Banner worth? 20? That's insane. And he offered that guitar to me several years pre-COVID for $5,500. That market's just, unfortunately, that's done. That's over. Your days of prices being through the roof and your seller's market is now coming back and leveling out. Prices haven't started falling yet. If anything, asking prices are getting higher. But the evidence is clear. Stuff ain't moving. So, it comes down to a point. Amazon just announced massive layoffs. People aren't shopping out. They're buying from Amazon. So if Amazon's announcing that they're laying off 1 in 10 employees, what does that tell you? But the economy's great. Everything's great. It's all rosy. Bed Bath & Beyond announced they're closing 150 stores.
Heard that. Yeah.
The layoffs are starting to happen, and as that happens, your pricing is going to fall. Unfortunately, we're also in a weird state of inflation where the cost of living's just gotten outrageous. But for 2 years, everybody had more money than they knew what to do with, and we all made a lot of money in those years. If you were, doing even haphazard business, you were making money. And it's gotten to a point where that's ended. So a lot of dealers, I think, are still living in denial. I think a lot of people, after the crash in 2008, 2009, which I think is a really good basis. I think it's going to be different, but I think that we can base what's about to happen off of that. Just looking forward, the logic is, well, this guitar that was worth $1,000 pre-COVID is now worth $2,000, and I paid $2,000 for it, but now I need to sell it. What do I do? You're going to take a loss. And a lot of people are going, well, the market's going to come back. It'll be back. It'll be fine. And that's true. But after 2008, we waited for that to happen. It took about 12 years for prices to get back to where they are. So do you need money today to live, or do you want to wait for the market to come back? And can you wait for 12 years, 13 years, 14 years? And I think it's about to break. And I don't think it's just the guitar market. I think it's cars. I think it's guns. I think it's any collectibles. The first thing that goes when you need to pay the bills is the toys.
Yeah.
So if you're watching like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, man, there's a ton of classic cars. None of the good stuff's coming out yet, but a lot of the project stuff is. And what that means is folks are starting to look at the bills and the financial state and going, it's getting a little tighter than it's been over the past few years. And I'm doing the same thing. I think most people are, but everybody's still going, I want $10,000 for my $5,000 guitar. Well, what's going to break it? When the bills come due, when that final notice comes in the mail, that's when it's going to break. And it's going to break all at once for everybody. And you're going to start seeing the market reflood, and you're going to see the public's not buying guitars. The public's not even looking at guitars right now. And you'll see articles that go, guitar sales are through the roof. Well, they are, but what kind of guitars are selling? Your $150 starter guitars, your $200 starter guitars, and your really high-end stuff still moving. But you're in between your player grade vintage, your $10,000, $20,000 vintage guitars. It's a very stagnant market right now. Now, if you've got a dead mint, burst, there's a market for that. Those people are still buying. But your average person is starting to look at the bills. It's like the stock market. Stock market's good to watch, but the stock market doesn't reflect your average everyday American.
Right.
Your average guy living down the road from you doesn't have a bunch of money tied up in the stock market. He's got money tied up in guitars or stuff he enjoys.
That's right.
So when the stock market dives or the stock market's going through right now, the stock market's doing all right. It trashed out last year, but it's rebounded quite a bit. And I think we're down if we're using the Dow as a reference, we're down about 2,200 points from the peak. I think it peaked out at 36.5 roundabout. And now we're sitting at 34 and some change. So, if you're looking at the stock market, it's doing all right. A lot of people lost a lot of money last year, but it's rebounded to a certain extent. But that doesn't reflect, your average guy that's selling an American Standard Stratocaster, of which they've sold millions of. But before COVID, a Mexican Strat, we pay $250 for them, knowing that, man, this is a $450 guitar, and I've got to compete with everybody else that's selling one. So that guitar is going to collect dust. An American Standard, you pay $500 for them because they were going to bring $750, and there was a ton of them. Yours was going to sit for a long time, but COVID hits. Everybody's got their stimulus checks. Man, I sold a lot of $1,200 guitars in April of 2020. A lot of them, because people blew through those stimulus checks. And what that did was it took that $750 American Standard Strat, made it an $1,200 guitar. Well, all they've done is churned out more of them. The million of them that they churned out, pre-COVID aren't going away. So what's going to happen when your average guy starts, needing to pay bills? The market's going to reflood. And if you watch Reverb and Craigslist, you're starting to see they're getting snatched up quick because people are so used to overpriced stuff. But you're seeing those guitars start to come out at pre-COVID prices. Now they'll sell quick. They'll still sell quick if they're priced right. But when 50 of them hit the market for $800, like it was 3 years ago, that's going to level out. And I've had people ask me, what do you think I should do with that have big collections? And I said last year, if you want to sell it, there's not going to be a better opportunity. You will not get another opportunity like this, perhaps ever, but definitely not in the next decade or so. And a lot of people listen to that. And I got a message from a friend of mine in Ohio the other day, and they just had their first kid, and he went, man, I've got some higher end stuff. What do I need to do? And I said, sell it now, right now. And he did. I got a message from him the other day. His name's Gavin. And he thanked me. He went, thanks for the advice, because right after you told me that last year, it started crashing out. And about September, that's when sales stopped. Now, there's a lot of dealers that'll tell you that it's still rosy. Everything's great. But maybe it is for them. But I think that a lot of them are trying to save face and trying to prop up the market, hoping that it'll level out. But it's not going to happen. Not right now. It's not.
No. Cash flow selling your used stuff, taking a little loss is better than no cash flow at all.
Take it at this point. If you can take a slight loss, it's going to be better than in a year from now when you really need money and you got to take a big loss.
Big loss. You're right.
Wash it somewhere else, man.
Great perspective. Yeah. Okay. So you got a pile of guitars behind you.
I do. I prepped for this.
And it looks awesome. You prepped very well, sir.
I don't know which way. Everything's leaned a little too far to the.
So I love it. So I'm just going to sit here and start asking. Now, from my perspective, it's hard to see what's what, but so I'll just kind of go with. And I've learned better than to ask what's your favorite. But how about we'll go generic? How about a go-to for maybe if you're picking around on a country song or playing your favorite country song? What's your go-to for that?
My go-to living room guitar is I've got a 59 D28, and that's this guitar here. And this is my go-to living room guitar. This is the one. If I'm gonna pick something up, it's probably going to be this guitar. I bought this a few years ago as a project, and man, it was messed up. It had every brace in it was loose. It had just been cobbled back together. Well, whoever tried to fix it, instead of fixing the bracing and bringing the top down to where it should be, they way overset the neck. So I don't know if I can get a view on it, but if you look at the saddle height, the saddle is just outrageously high. Because when we got the top down, we had to have a ton of saddle height because the neck's so overset.
Wow.
Fortunately, I like my action really low. I've got some nerve damage in my hands. I was in a tornado a decade or so ago. And so I like my everything that I own has to be set up just with action on the fretboard. And I don't own anything that doesn't buzz out. But this one will never need another neck set because I mean you've got enough saddle there for the next 100 years. But I like bastardized old guitars. You know, I don't mind. You know, I take stuff out. People will buy something and they'll go, man, that guitar's worth a lot of money. I can't take it out. I'll take it out and toss it to the tech side stage. I don't care. It's fine. It's a beater.
I mean,
so I just clanked my ring into the side of it right there, and yeah, who cares?
Hey, man, it's meant to bring you joy, and it's a tool at the end of the day. I mean, for some guys, it's not. It might be a piece of art, but if you're playing it and using it and loving on it, then it is what it is, and it's got to take. And what's nice about a used instrument is somebody's already taken all the the shininess off, and it doesn't hurt as bad if you booger it up.
Yeah, it's a guitar, and it's meant to, rock and roll is supposed to be dangerous. First time I took this out, I had a record called Life on the 1 and 3 that came out in 2020. I was dating a stripper. Don't do that. It's toxic. If that's your takeaway from this episode, it's that
That's going to be the title. That's going to be the title of our episode.
I give great relationship advice if you enjoy being single. But I was drinking heavily at the time, and I wanted to test some of the songs out in front of an audience. There was a songwriter thing in Huntsville. I'm going to go play a few of the new songs and see how folks react to them. And I get up on stage. I've got a double Absolute and Cranberry in my hand, and I turn around, and I've got this guitar, and I just ram it straight to the mic stand. And a room full of songwriters and guitar players. And it's a collective, oh my God, gasp. And I hit it hard. I hit it hard. And I can't believe to this day it didn't just splinter the top. But it didn't. So I just went, hell, all right, let's do a song. It's still in tunes, it's fine. But yeah, that's why I don't own any. I own a few really nice kind of collector-ish grade guitars, but I try not to take them out because I can be rough on stuff.
What about on your latest album? Did you have a go-to?
Yes. I've got a J50. It's not out. I don't know where that guitar is. I've got a 1952 Gibson J50 that I've used on pretty much every record since I bought it. So that would have started with, I guess, Commercially Inept in 2014. But I've used that guitar extensively for recording. It's just a big old thuddy Gibson, and it's the same way. There's more glue in that guitar than wood at this point. I think I've had every brace in the guitar re-glued at least twice, and it still needs work. It's still, the top's all messed up, but it's a really good sounding guitar. I use this Martin on the record, and let me grab this. Oh, there's a lot of acoustic guitars on the record, but okay, when I was growing up, again, the country singers were the epitome of cool. So in the 50s, if you had a country hit, you got three things. You got you a pocket full of amphetamine pills, you got you a Cadillac car, and you got you a Gibson J200. So for over 10 years, I looked for the right J200. I had to have a J200. It had to be sunburst. It had to be 50s. It had to be kind of beat because, again, I was going to take it out and play it, and I'm rough on stuff. So I bought this. And this came from some friends of mine in New York at Southside Guitars. And it's a 54. It says dub on it. Dub on it. I'm looking at the camera trying to do things, and it's backwards. And I'm a whore for any personalized guitar, any names, sell it to me. I want it. And when I met Dub, I had to have the guitar. So this guitar is on the cover of the record, and it was worth buying it just to do the cover. Like it was worth the purchase. And it still needs a neck set, but I just had a refret done on it. And this guitar is on the new record a lot. I play this on a lot of tracks, and again, it's on the cover. So I'm holding a big. I finally got my J200 after years of wanting one. There's no not awkward way to do this, by the way.
Dude, it's a big guitar, man. You know, it'll look good when you're riding in your Cadillac.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll sell me a Cadillac. I don't know if Cadillac wants that publicity. So if they give me a Cadillac, it's going to get out of hand.
Yeah. So on some of your videos, you're playing an old Gibson. Gibson is a Gibson O. What? Forgive me.
Actually those guitars are out.
I'm just making up letters.
Thunk. I don't know if you heard that loud thunk of me hitting the J200 on the stand, but the Style O is this guitar. That's the scroll.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the camera doing everything. It's hard to.
It's
I'm
good.
doing everything backwards.
That's a good view right there.
But this is a 1920 Gibson Style O. This was Gibson's top of the line 6-string acoustic at the time. And it's just this is a original ebony M pen. I mean, it's a pretty nice example. Missing the pick guard, the tailpiece is changed. These originally had celluloid tailpieces on. Most of them rotted. So you don't see a lot of them with the original tailpiece. But overall, it's just a nice example of, at the time, Gibson's highest end 6-string.
Where did you come across that one?
Where did this guitar? This guitar came from Carter's in Nashville. Actually, I was up there, and it's had a heel repair on it. But I was up there, and I had a guitar on consignment, and we ended up doing a trade. And for years, I wanted to get all the top end Gibson guitars from that era, the Style O, which is this, the Style U, which is the harp guitar, and the Style J Mando bass, which there's a good story about it. But I wanted the complete picture, and finally, after several years of working on putting them all together, I got my picture. So it was a really expensive picture to put together. I gotta take the picture, and it ended. The journey ended. I mentioned I didn't get into the guitar thing until a little bit later. So like I went from not being into it, and like I said, all my family played, and I think they were going, "Is he going to get into it?" And then I went to calling my dad and going, "You want to ride to Kansas City and pick up a Gibson Mando bass?" And he said yes, but I think I overcorrected at some point. I went from one extreme to the other. You can see the Mando bass in the background. It's cumbersome.
I do, yeah. It's a beast.
Yeah, it's large. That's the stupidest thing in the world. I love it. It's so dumb. Why'd I buy that? So stupid. I love it.
So, all right. Well, hey, since we're on the Gibson train at the moment, besides the Mando bass, any more Gibson acoustics back there?
Yeah, the harp guitar is out, and there's also a little Sharpie refinished L1. I don't know if I can get the harp. Oh my god, cumbersome.
Yeah, I made sound effects for you, man, just in case anything happened.
So I'm doing everything backwards. I don't know which way. There we go. Now this is a 1908 Gibson Style U harp guitar, which is the whole thing's ridiculous. I guess I can look. There's no good way to hold this thing and talk. I guess I could just look through the harp strings.
That's great. All right, is it fun to play?
It's something. It's the guitar for the guitar player with no friends. The Gibson and Gibson literature at the time, they talk about how the harp guitar is going to revolutionize music. As a matter of fact, the Gibson literature states that the harpsichord went out of style and the piano was the big thing. The harp guitar is going to do to the guitar what the piano did to the harpsichord. didn't quite work out that way for obvious reasons. What do you even do with this thing? But it was made so you could accompany yourself. The bass strings are tuned chromatically, so you just nothing's in tune. Everything's out of tune, but it was built so you could accompany yourself. And there's some very accomplished players that can play a harp guitar. I'm not one of them. I can noodle around on it, but this one's actually got the original celluloid tailpiece too that usually rots. Which way do I go? There we go.
Yeah. Wow. What? All right. So that had to have come with a case, right?
No, it did not. I threw it into the back seat of my car and drove back to Huntsville with it. I don't know. I don't take it out, of course, because it's too much. But I'm gonna buy a big keyboard case and cut some foam, and then I'm gonna have a hard case for the harp guitar. But I just haven't got around to it yet. Sure. It's been pretty low on the list of priorities.
When you so a lot of acoustics behind you, or do you gravitate more to the acoustic, or is it just a matter of the day or what you're playing, or?
If I'm at home, I'm probably picking up an acoustic guitar. Yeah, I don't play a lot of electric around the house. It's mainly acoustic. So I gravitate towards that. I've got my main acoustics, but as far as electrics, here's one I use. This is a cool guitar. Every now when you run a guitar business, you tend to cherry pick stuff.
Yeah.
And every now and then I'll buy something. I'll go, this is coming home with me. There's no in between. There's nothing. And this is a 62 Jazzmaster. Pretty run of the mill guitar, but I've used this on a lot of sessions. That's the best tremolo Fender ever put on a guitar. Best vibrato system. And like I said, nothing's in tune, but I love that. I love this guitar. And this one came from a one-owner family. It's got the original hang tag. It's a pretty nice example. Slab board, early 62. Just a cool guitar. I've used this on a lot of records. There's a song called One More Day on Life on the 1 and 3, and the electric guitar track you hear is I don't remember how that goes. But you hear that really loud and mixed. That's the best. I'm not a big vibrato whammy bar guy, but the dynamic vibrato Fender used on the Jazzmaster Jaguars was the best design. One of the best Fender designs they ever used.
Everybody at home, take notes.
Yeah, listen to me on that one. Don't date strippers, and if you want a good guitar with a great vibrato system, buy a Jazzmaster.
There we go. See, you're writing our show synopsis for me. So, hey, talking, clearly a lot of guitars have come through your possession as a dealer. What was there one that got away? Is there the one that got away, or
yes,
yeah?
There's several, and I can probably name every one of them, because if you see something cool, let me take this time to say this: if you see something cool and it's priced reasonably and you can afford it, buy it when you see it, because you're going to miss out on it. You're not the only person looking for something. And I get messages all the time on sold listings. Is this still around? It's gone. As soon as something sells, I'll get a message. Did this sell? Yes. If you want something, you're not the only person looking. Make the deal happen. If it's a little bit more money and you really want it, who cares? You can go, you'll spend $50 on a decent dinner now. If you're $100, $200 apart on a guitar and you're, don't ruin the deal for that. But yes, there's several. Back before I had any money, I was pretty young. There was a Telecaster. It was a 72 Telecaster It had been routed for a Gibson embossed humbucker in the neck. This guitar is out there somewhere. If whoever's watching this has it, call me. I want it. Gibson embossed humbucker in the neck, sunburst, which of course was a custom color on a telly. So you don't see a ton of sunburst tellies in that era. Rosewood board, which again, odd for that era. And at the time, I think it was priced at like $2,500, which was every dime of what it was worth. And man, I think about that guitar all the time. There was another J200. It was a 52, and it showed up on Reverb. And I didn't really, at the time, I didn't have the cash to buy it. And I thought about calling a friend and going, I need to borrow some money. And we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. I didn't want to do that. And I should have done that because they would have loaned me the money to buy it. But it was a 50, I want to say 51 or 52 J200, but it was special ordered. It was Brazilian rosewood back and sides, and it had a Super 400 neck on it. And it was a cool guitar. And it disappeared. Someone bought it, and it later popped up at like 6 times the asking price at another shop. And it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. Also, there was another J200, and I did everything I could to try to make a deal happen on it, but it didn't work out at the end of the day. We were just too far. We were way too far apart. But it was the Dave Dudley J200. Dave Dudley, of course, wrote and performed 6 days on the road. I collect country music memorabilia too, and it was just such a cool guitar. And we were days and nights apart on the price, and it didn't work out. The guitar had a lot of repairs. It had been refinished 2 or 3 times, but the leather pick guards were on it. You can Google and see the guitar. It's Dave Dudley J200. It was a cool guitar, but it was just, man, it was rode hard and put away wet a lot, and the price was just way too high for what it was. And that was sad. I've been on the search for if you can't tell, I'm really into early Gibson stuff. I'm probably one of the youngest people, and probably one of about 3 people in the world that care to own a Mando bass. But I'm looking at you, Mike Reeder. Mike's music has like 4 of them, and yeah, you think mine's stupid? Go look at his 4 of them. But I've been on the hunt for several years for an authentic, real Orville Gibson made guitar, and there's not a lot of examples out there. I drug my feet on one, and it sold, and that was stupid. And another one popped up, and it's kind of a long story. I'm not gonna go into it, but it didn't work out. So I'm hoping 3rd time's the charm on the Orville guitar.
When you go to a show to set up, do you start scouting for all these, especially that telly?
Not really. If I see something I like, I'll buy it for me and toss it under the table. And I've bought a few guitars like that at shows. And sometimes I'll buy something and it'll get listed for sale, and I'll look back on it and go, I kind of like this, and then I'll pull it. I own several Les Pauls that I've done that with. But if I run across something cool, I won't hesitate to go, I'm taking this home.
Good for you. What? All right. So on that note, you gave your buyers recommendations, to just pony up, assuming that the price is within reason, Yeah,
I mean, if something's outrageous, don't. But I mean, if someone's asking if a guitar's worth $1,000 and it's truly, most of this stuff isn't rare. There's a lot of slab board jazz masters out there. They built a lot of them. These guitars were mass produced, not to the extent that they are today. But I mean, there's enough of them out there. But if you run across something that's pretty odd and you want it, buy it. Yeah, I'm not telling you to go spend $2,000 on a $1,000 guitar. Don't do that. But if you want to pay $800 for something and they want $900 and it's worth $800, it's $100. Who cares? Yeah.
And if you're like me, you'll be stupid, not do the $900 deal, regret it, and then spend $1,100. I don't get it now.
And like I said, I've been very guilty of dragging my feet, and there's guitars I've hunted for years that I had to pony up for. As a matter of fact, there's one behind me that falls into that category. '52 Les Paul, first year, stupid trapeze tailpiece, and just beat to death. Really worn guitar, few changed inlays, few changed screws, but overall it's a pretty straight example. And it was just played to death. There's no way you'll see. But I mean the fretboard, there's no way to see it, I would imagine. But the fretboard is divoted, I mean, beyond the inlays. Yeah, you can see it in the video. But this guitar was literally played almost to death. The guy, whoever owned it for many years, played with his thumb and rested his hand right here below the pick guard.
See that? Yeah.
So the maple cap on this guitar is almost worn through. I mean, there's a deep divot there. And a friend of mine owned this guitar, and I went, man, when are you gonna sell me the gold top? Every time I saw him, I went, when are you gonna sell me the gold top? And finally, I had the opportunity to buy it, and I had to write a check, and it hurt me. And but you know what? I chased it for years, and I bought it. So if you're chasing something and you're a little bit apart, just bite the bullet. You'll regret it later if you don't. But I had the poker. The first year Les Pauls don't have the poker chip treble rhythm switch. Little piece of plastic. For some reason I can't think of a technical term for it right now. This one was missing wood around the switch. I had to add the poker chip to keep the switch in. It's so worn. But just a cool guitar. And this really, like, I could have said no to this. But you only go through once. Spend the money. It ain't nothing but dirty paper. You'll make more. Hopefully we'll make more.
And like that guitar, do you know, did he know anything about the not necessarily the original owner, but the owner that put all the miles on it? Because I mean, man, somebody loved that thing to death, which is so
someone
cool.
played it heavily. And people, I had a guy bought a guitar from me the other day and asked me, he goes, what's the story? And unfortunately, most of the time I can make up a good story, but most of the time, when you're in this business, you don't get the story. I have no idea who owned it. I know he loved it, or she loved it, and played it. But I know my friend got it probably second or third down the line from the original owner. So unfortunately, we don't have that story. And when guitars come in, people go, "Is there a good story?" And it's just, I run a guitar shop. Stuff comes in every day, and unfortunately, most of the time, the cool story is I bought it in a pawn shop and now it's for sale.
Right. Well, man, where can people find your online listings? Where's the best place?
Online, we're on Reverb, and we have a Facebook page that'll occasionally offer just things before they go online. But that's Izzy's Vintage Guitars. You can Google us and we'll come up. But mainly we're pretty streamlined to Reverb.
Sure. Okay. And I'll make notes and links to that and put it in the show description. All right, kind of parting thoughts here, man. We talked a lot about, a fair amount about classic country, and that's where your roots are. We don't have to, we're not going back there in the same way. We'll go back to, all right, man. So we've got a young listener watching or listening to the show, and they're like, man, who should I check out? Izzy, spout out some names of some of your all-time faves.
Izzy Miller, that's who they should be listening to. I got a new record.
Out on February 17th. Izzy
Please
Miller.
buy it. I've made some very poor investments and I could use the money. But who should they be listening to? Me, of course.
It was like a rhetorical question,
No, man. If you want to listen to, I don't know, man. I could sit here today. I listen to a lot of jazz too. Like, people don't think I listen to jazz, but I listen to a lot of it. People think I'm lying about that, but I enjoy jazz a lot because I don't play it. I don't think about it. I have nothing to do with it. I just like to put it on and enjoy it. I don't think about the chord changes. I don't think about any of it. So I'm withdrawn from it. I think that's why I enjoy it so much. As far as country music goes, man, there's so many great underrated country artists. If you want to go for kind of the 70s kind of jittery, amphetamine out, cocaine out country music, Steve Young had two great RCA records with just a killer band. And I mean, they're on the forefront of the beat, man. It's good stuff. Renegade Picker and No Place to Fall are those two records. Anything Gary Stewart ever cut, Gary's big hit was "She's Acting Single, I'm Drinking Doubles," but Gary put out he was also an RCA, and the problem was RCA just didn't know how to market these guys. They were too country for rock, but they were too rock for country, and they just couldn't figure it out. And to me, that's one of the greatest injustices of the world is some of those guys are just dramatically overlooked. Any kind of trucking songs, Dave Dudley, Red Simpson, Red Sovine. There's just so much great stuff out there. If you get me started talking about country music, I'll talk about country music for 2 days. So supposed to be talking about guitars.
It was like your parting thought. Hey, here's Izzy Miller's wise wisdom. If you're new to old country, new to old, here's what he recommends. And you did it. You did great.
Steve Young also. I'm going to tout Steve Young for a second. Steve Young was from Montgomery, and just those two RCA, everything Steve really cut was great. Steve famously wrote "Lonesome Warrior and Meme," which Waylon had a huge hit off of. He wrote "Seven Bridges Road" which the Eagles had a huge hit off of. But God, man, those two. If you learn nothing from this, go put on those. You're listening to this on Spotify. Click out of it and go straight to Steve Young and listen to "Renegade Picker." It'll change your life.
Best parting words of wisdom yet.
I try my best. I try to provide.
Dude, you've done great, man. Listen, I think that's probably a great wrap point. I mean, we can keep going. Me and we can hang out. I know you got another hour and a half, man. We can kick it here offline.
Yeah, I got to go I'm going to Texas Roadhouse. I'll plug the Texas Roadhouse too. I'm trying to get them to sponsor me. Me and my family are going to Texas Roadhouse for dinner. We got gift cards. So Texas Roadhouse has a thing where they do like a featured artist of the month. So I'm trying to plug Texas Roadhouse everywhere in hopes that they'll put the album on in the restaurants.
There we go. Hey, man,
I'm shameless. I'll do anything.
Texas Roadhouse, dude. Man, this has been great. Well, Izzy, thank you so much for your time, brother. I really appreciate your conversation, learning more about you, hearing your story, and just can't thank you enough for being a guest on the show.
Well, hey, I appreciate you having me. I'm appreciative to anybody who wants to talk to me. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much. We'll talk here more in a minute. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate you listening and watching. Look for Izzy's record, February 17th. We'll plug that here in the show notes, man. I'll pump it wherever else I can through Guitar Gavel and among my friends. But thanks, everybody. Izzy, hold on one sec, man. We'll hang out for another minute.
Excellent.
Thanks for tuning in to the Guitar Gavel podcast, and a special thanks to Steve Kuykendall for composing this music and being such the great guy and friend that you are. As a reminder, hit the subscribe button and sign up for our twice weekly newsletter at guitargavel.com.